Hey peeps, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah, and in today's video I am going to show you how I created this cat illustration in Procreate and how you can use a similar process to create any kind of stylized pet portrait. Okay, so there's a little bit of a story behind this. I made this painting because of a TikTok that I had made. So for context, let me show you the actual TikTok. As an artist, I've tried a lot of things to get famous on this app. Acrylic and watercolor, charcoal, pencil, colored pencil, so much abstract. Cute stuff, ugly stuff, slightly more realistic stuff, photo manipulation, more stuff. But it's okay, I'm finally ready to give the internet what it really wants. Here's my cat. So this was done purely as a joke, and when I posted that TikTok, I didn't expect it to get a ton of views. I kind of figured it would get more than my usual like 1,200, 300 views or whatever, but it like kind of blew up overnight and got like 20,000 views. So I had a ton of people just commenting saying like, hey, why don't you draw a picture of your cat, sort of thing. But it's the internet, so but I figured this would be a good opportunity to show you how I go through the process of creating my digital paintings. So let's start off with that rough sketch. Guys, I could have totally edited this part out because it is ugly at the beginning, but that's part of the process. Almost every art piece out there has to go through its ugly phase first. Even if you're watching other artists and think, well, theirs looks great, like right away. It's because they have the muscle memory, and I guarantee they feel like it's ugly at the beginning compared to what they want to achieve. It really is a trust the process kind of moment. I was actually drawing from life in this scenario, so I can't show you the reference, but what I will say is that this initial sketch is probably the most important step. It's where you establish your proportions, your point of view, your lighting in some cases, the stylization. If you rush this part, you will see it in your final result. You will see as I go along that the drawing slowly gets more and more refined. This process applies to any pet portrait that you may attempt. I always tell people that art is 90% observation. How far apart are the eyes? How long are the ears? Where does the nose fall? How far is it from the eyes to the ears? Compare, compare, compare. And make sure that your drawing falls in line with it. Now obviously this one is stylized, so the eyes are bigger and the face is shorter, so in this scenario a lot of the applications of realism are still relevant, but I'm trying to bring the cute factor here. So I'm experimenting with her features to see what's going to give that effect that I want. Rework, rework, and rework again until you get something that you like. Once my sketch is done, I'm going to block in some colors here. I tone the canvas so that my highlights and shadows will show up easily, and then I fill out the different regions with a solid color first, or better known as a local color. This is the color every element would theoretically be without the influence of light and shadow, though I am going a bit more monochromatic here. So this is Rue. She looks sad at best, but she alternates between affection and agitation. She does cuddle a lot, so it's fun to take a little personality that I interact with on a daily basis. Even though this is stylized, I want to capture the shape of her eyes and how she sleeps on the back of the couch. As an extra step, I will put my refined layer on alpha lock so that the pixels are locked and it won't add anything, but I can easily paint over my whole sketch and change the color. This way I don't lose my sketch, but it will blend in a little easier. This makes it look less cartoony, and I really like the look of a toned line. Then I start painting the sky through the window behind her. Establishing this will help me figure out the direction and the color of my light. I do my best not to use white when it comes to lighting. I feel like it's our natural reaction if we want something to be brighter, but light creates a warm color usually. And when we use white, it starts to wash out or gray down or look dull. That's not to say that I never use straight white, but I use it very sparingly. And I tell my students this too, but to me, value will always be just slightly more important than that color. Values define shape and depth, and you can communicate and imagine in a straight black and white, but the color and the lighting is what creates the mood and the emotions. Once we have our light established, then I'm going to start filling in some basic shadows on the couch. Usually when I do shadows, I'll create a new layer and set it to overlay, and I may do 2 or 3 shadow layers to differentiate those really deep shadows. For this, I'm going with a darker purple color. Shadows will often fall into the cool colors range, like purples, blues, sometimes greens. Green can really go either way, and your light colors will usually fall into the warmer tones like red, orange, and yellow. I experiment with the texture a little bit. This is more to suggest the canvas texture on the upholstery, but this is not a realistic style, so I'm not going to be super detailed here. I want this style to be consistent throughout the painting. These texture brushes are all just default brushes from Procreate, and really the default brushes are pretty great. I use a combination of default brushes, but I do make my own as needed, and then I have the set of Procreate brushes from Aaron Blaze, which I will link in the description. Now, I've gotten quite a few comments that say my paintings move too fast, which I do apologize for, but unfortunately full-length art videos don't perform as well on YouTube, so I speed up repetitive steps, but I try to slow down when I'm showing you specific steps. At some point, I would like to offer full-length videos, and I may just throw in a few here and there. However, this is more something that I would likely save for a Patreon account, though I likely won't start a Patreon until something like 10,000 subscribers. I've got a long ways to go, but it's slowly getting there. So at this phase in the drawing, I'm going to establish my shadows, and I'm not gonna lie, this is tricky to figure out. This was the thing that held me back for so long and why I relied so much on photo references to the point where it was a crutch. In order to know where to put your shadows and how far up to go, how dark to go, and where to place your lights, you need to understand how light falls on shapes. Understanding shapes is absolutely essential. I didn't really get this until I started taking anatomy classes. You can learn anatomy on your own, but I felt like it helped to have someone walk me through it and show me real life application. And don't wait on this. If you feel like you don't have a good understanding of anatomy of animals or people, don't waste another second muddling through another drawing and learning more bad habits. Go find someone that teaches anatomy of whatever you're trying to draw. It's a game changer. I go in with some textured strokes to indicate the shadows of some of the fur clumps, and then taking that same idea of the shadows, I start working in my light according to the shapes and where the light hits them. You'll notice that even though her ears are technically on the opposite side of my light source, that I'm still putting light in there anyways. This is because her skin is translucent, so you will see some light filtering through her ears. Now we're working on some of those darker shadows. These are those deep crevices like skin folds or right where she's sitting on the couch. You don't have as much light filtering around bouncing back in these areas, so I take this opportunity to work in some more defined features as well. Likewise, I will go back with my brighter highlights and break out the rim light. Now, rim light happens in a couple situations, either with direct light or bounce light. In this scenario, the direct light source is coming from behind my subject, and the most direct path of light is causing a bright halo around the silhouette. This is where you get that high contrast edge. In other situations, it can be caused by bounce light, where the direct light source will bounce off of objects in the room and back onto the subject. So you'll have a similar effect, but not quite as bright, and it might be a different color. Often in animals outside, you'll get a subtle green glow on the underside because the light is reflecting off of the grass and bouncing back onto your subject. So I keep working details, but honestly, this was just kind of a fun little sketch, so I wasn't being super realistic, super detailed, just lots of loose strokes to indicate fur and light patterns. Then when you zoom out, it all comes together. Basically, through this whole process, I keep going back and forth between my light and dark values until I'm happy with it. When working out finishing details, I might notice that things don't look quite right proportionately. So this is something I struggle with, and it doesn't always matter how tight my initial sketch is. I just don't see quite clearly until the shapes are defined. So I will copy the whole canvas and paste it as one layer, and then I use the liquefy feature to push the image around a little bit. You can see that I widened the face a little bit. Then I will work on my colors overall. I like to use a combination of color balance and curves. Curves will control the lights, the darks, and the contrast. You can tweak colors as well, but it's a little easier for me to use color balance. But this will take out some of the contrast because it's colorizing your lights and shadows. Now if I toggle the layer on and off, you can see the before and after, and apparently I forgot to add some little bits of bounce light in there, so we're just adding a couple sprinkles. So that's my process from concept to final details. Obviously, this isn't step by step, but it may be enough for you to understand how to stylize your own pet portraits in Procreate. That's the final image. Let me know what you guys think. And if you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button. I do alternate between traditional and digital mediums just because I love them both. But that's all for now, peeps. I will see you in the next video.